Welcome back to the Naughty Dog Reviews. Last week we went over the first game in the Jak and Daxter series. It turned out it was the perfect way to follow up Crash Bandicoot, as it took what those games did and just expanded upon it. Going into Jak 2, you'd probably expect to be playing another collectathon with nice little environments to explore and lots of power cells to collect. If that's what you're expecting, then you might be shocked to find out that it's actually Grand Theft Auto. This game took a much darker route than the last, and it's a shame I didn't play it when I was back in middle school, because something tells me I would have enjoyed that. Join me today as we awaken the edgy teen within all of us in this review of Jak 2. To start things off, let's go ahead and talk about the story, as I feel it's the best place to show the tonal shift from the last game to this one. So Jak 2 picks up pretty soon after the first game's true ending. It turns out that the gate that was unlocked by all 101 power cells had an ancient precursor ring inside of it. The game starts with our main characters preparing to use a device to activate the ring. Once activated, the device opens a rift and they briefly encounter a mysterious creature before launching through it. This takes them to a place called Haven City, which appears to be some sort of futuristic metropolis. Jak and Daxter are immediately ambushed by armed soldiers who kidnap Jak and leave Daxter because they aren't interested in him. After that, 2 full years pass and we're shown that the soldiers have been doing dark eco experiments on Jak in an attempt to turn him into a weapon. Daxter eventually makes his way to Jak and frees him from his restraints, and it's at this point that one of my favorite additions to the game is revealed.
Say something! Just this once! I'm gonna kill Praxis. Shh! Right now, we gotta get you out of here.
Giving Jak a voice was definitely necessary, because this game is a lot more focused on the story and characters. It also makes the dynamic between Jak and Daxter all around a lot more enjoyable. One of my favorite things about it is that the game actually acknowledges the fact that he didn't always talk, rather than just pretending that he always has like most games would. Daxter himself is also even more charming than before now that he has a PG-13 rating.
Ooh, I love undercover work, baby. But, 2 can work better than 1.
Anyways, once Jak's free, him and Daxter escape from the facility and begin their adventure to take down Baron Praxis, who is the leader of the army who kidnapped Jak. As you can see by the premise alone, this game is a lot different than the first one. Jak 2 came out around the time when games like Grand Theft Auto were exploding with popularity, and it's clear that Naughty Dog wanted to jump on that trend while they still could. Like GTA, this game has an open world map to explore full of characters who will give you missions to complete. These characters are a lot more fleshed out this time around because they each offer a full storyline worth of missions rather than one apiece. In Precursor Legacy, you do things like herd animals for a farmer or catch fish for a fisherman. In Jak 2, you do things like become a hired gun for a crime lord or join an underground resistance against the tyrannical Baron Praxis and his army, known as the Crimson Guard. There's just a much bigger focus on why you're doing what you're doing here. The missions you embark on are also really enjoyable for the most part. Some of them have you going outside the walls of Haven City, while others simply take place within it. For me personally, the levels outside of the hub world were much more enjoyable. These are the sections that are more like levels from the first game, and they still seamlessly connect to the hub world and are as beautiful as ever. Instead of being all about collecting everything and then leaving, the levels here have several missions within each one of them. These parts of the game are just as memorable as before, with plenty of challenging platforming sections and a variety of other gameplay styles. My favorite of these alternative gameplay styles are the hoverboard sections that play like a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game, and a chain of racing missions that I actually find really fun once you get the hang of the controls. The ones I don't like as much are the mech suit that is horrendous to control, and the turret sections that are really annoying, but we'll talk specifically about that later. Aside from those few exceptions, I love the missions outside of the hub world. The missions that take place in Haven City, however, make me want to commit Alt F4 with how obnoxious and annoying they are. These generally consist of protect this person while I get to this point, or race this person in these claustrophobic environments of the city, or get to this point really quickly even though this map doesn't have enough shortcuts, so to get from point A to point B, you're going to have to pass through point C, D. They simply aren't fun to do, and every time I got one of these missions, I just wanted to turn off the game and go back to Precursor Legacy, where I could peacefully jog down the beautiful shores of Sentinel Beach. But instead, I'm stuck here doing this. That mission fail music has relentlessly haunted me because of this game. I had to hear it countless times during my playthrough, which brings me to my next point. This game is way too hard. Look, I know I said that the last game was easy, but they did not have to do a full 180 on me like this. Jak dies very easily, having most enemies kill him in only 4 hits, which alone wouldn't be too bad, but some sections of the game have a ton of enemies that spawn, and you don't have any invincibility frames between hits. The first major difficulty spike occurs only a few missions into the game. This stupid tank killed me at least a dozen times before I could get past it. To make things even worse, the majority of the levels in this game have 0 checkpoints. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but I certainly hope they were let go once this game was finished. It's especially aggravating on escort missions, which everyone knows and loves. These take a pretty long time to get through, and not only do you have to protect someone from a heap of enemies, but you have to make sure that you don't shoot them either, or you'll do way more damage than the enemies will. My absolute least favorite parts of this game, however, are the turret sections. More specifically, the one on rails. It's really not too hard, it's just the fact that it's around 6 minutes long, and if you die, you have to start all over again. The turret also has no visible health bar, so you'll never know when you're about to die. There's also an unlockable hero mode in the game that's about twice as hard as the main game, meaning it's twice as unlikely that I'll ever go near it. Okay, I know it's probably starting to sound like I hate this game, but I don't. In fact, I really like it. While I don't like the lack of checkpoints or the annoying hub world missions, those are really my only major problems with this game. Now that those negatives are out of the way, let's talk about the controls. So Jak's controls in this game are about the same as they were in the last game, with 2 additions, guns and Dark Jak. You can't make a GTA-inspired game without including some firearms to shred your enemies and possibly some innocent bystanders with. The guns actually fit really nicely with the rest of the controls, although they do pretty much make your regular attacks useless. They also add a nice incentive to progressing through the story. Some missions will give you upgrades to guns you already have, or even entirely new guns. The other addition, Dark Jak, is the result of the Dark Eco experiments done on Jak in the beginning of the game. It's really fun to use and has unlockable upgrades, including a ground slam that completely obliterates every enemy in sight. Unfortunately, charging up this ability takes too long in my opinion, so you won't really get to use it as much as you might want to. The last thing I want to mention for the controls is that in one mission, you get to control Daxter in a Crash Bandicoot style boulder chase, and how could anyone not love that? The only thing that could have improved this would be the addition of the chase music from Crash. Oh, and speaking of music, this game also has music. Like the last game, it doesn't have a lot of standout tracks that I like to listen to outside of it. It does, however, use this music in interesting and unique ways. When walking around Haven City, the music is subtle and mysterious, but as soon as you steal a car, the music picks up and adds drums to the mix.
Welcome to the city transportation system. You've been hovering one of 2 zones.
The music has a similar effect when you go from being unarmed to having your gun out. These are small details, but they are really cool and stood out to me almost every time during my playthrough. There are only a couple more things I want to go over before wrapping up the review, the first of which being the way Jak 2 handles its collectibles. If you couldn't tell by now, this game isn't a collectathon like Precursor Legacy was. The only returning collectible in this game is the Precursor Orbs, but in this game they're used to purchase unlocks in the secrets menu. They actually did a good job of consistently giving you good incentives for collecting the orbs. The early rewards are simple things like Toggle Jak's Goatee, Mirror World, or Big Head mode. The later ones are things that are a lot more useful, like unlimited ammo, unlimited Dark Jak, and level select. As awesome as these rewards are, I couldn't bother to get them because a lot of the orbs you need to unlock them are gained through getting gold medals in the various minigames across the map. All I did with these minigames was complete what was required and nothing more, because I tried to get even just a bronze medal on the first gun course and I could barely even do that. All I can do is imagine how hard it would be to get the silver or gold ones. The only other collectible in the game is the Metalhead Skull Gem. Not much to say about these besides the fact that they are a currency used to buy additional Dark Jak abilities, which are pretty awesome. The final thing I want to talk about for Jak 2 is the boss fights. This game's bosses appear at the end of each act in the game's overall story, with the exception of one boss within the third act. The boss fights are much more memorable from both a gameplay and a visual standpoint. The second Baron Praxis boss fight is my personal favorite of the fights in this game. During his first 2 phases, he's trying to remove a precursor stone from the statue guarding it. While he's doing this, you have to use his bombs against him while also avoiding the mechanical spiders around you. Once he finally removes the stone, his third phase begins and he uses it against you. It's really cool to see things in the environment change throughout the boss fight. The pillars you have to hide behind slowly get torn down, and the Baron blows up parts of the ground between each attack. The bosses in Precursor Legacy weren't bad by any means, these are just a lot better. So this game is going to be tough for me to score. On one hand, I love the darker tone, the far more memorable characters and boss fights, and the missions that feel like you're really working towards something. It's just a shame that some of my enjoyment is taken away by the obnoxious missions that take place in the hub worlds, and the frequency of difficulty spikes that aren't usually accompanied by checkpoints. While I still had a great time playing this game, I feel like I spent more time being annoyed and frustrated than I should have. Jak 2 isn't perfect, but the things it does well are done really well, and overall I think that it's definitely worth a try for any fans of the first game. I give Jak 2 an 8 out of 10. It's pretty great. As always, I want to thank anybody who made it through the video. If you enjoyed, I ask that you please leave a like and subscribe because it really helps the channel and shows me that I'm doing something right here. Since last week I got a new patron, so thank you OG Ray Ray for joining the Zane chain. Thanks again to Matonum and Abby Luhu for continuing your support as well. To anyone interested in the Patreon, the link will be in the description as always, as well as on my channel. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time when I review Jak 3. Until then, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.